The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. I've got a couple of quick programming notes for you. Normally, first thing in the morning, we have live with us Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet for a segment we call Ask Dr. Doreen. Unfortunately, we don't have Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet here with us this morning, but we are going to be showing you a version of Ask Dr. Doreen that I do not believe that most of you have seen yet. And then we will continue to be live in our second hour today with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We've got some amazing guests for you. Nancy is going to be here with me, Nancy Allspaw Jackson. And our first guests are going to be Matt Asner and Nava Paskowitz that are going to be with us for an autism family portrait. And they've got some rather interesting news for us as well. We've got some in the news, and we've got an amazing comedian who's going to be with us, Sam Tripoli, who is going to be the host of this year's Fullerton Cares comedy show. So he's going to bring the funny, and we're going to really look forward to that. Plus, as I said, we've got some important updates on for in the news. So all that's going to be coming live in our second hour. In just a moment, though, we're going to watch a version of Ask Dr. Doreen. If you've been watching the show, you know we've been playing around a little bit with being live on Facebook. And so a couple of weeks ago, we went live on Facebook with Dr. Doreen, and it was just Dr. Doreen and I and an iPad in a conference room. So those of you who watch the show religiously on our autism-live, you didn't get a chance to see it because we're trying to figure out how we can do both. But at this point in time, we can either be on Facebook Live or we can be on YouTube Live. So there you have it. So we decided, since we don't have Dr. Graham-Pichet this week, that we would show this particular episode for those of you who didn't see it. And next week, we will have Dr. Graham-Pichet back with us, and we're hoping, we're figuring it out how to be on both places live. But we'll keep you updated as to where we will be live next Wednesday. But we will be live next Wednesday. But first, take a look at this Ask Dr. Doreen, and don't go away, because at the top of the hour, very top of the hour, we're going to be back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Take a look. Welcome to Facebook Live.
That's so exciting.
It is very exciting. We're going to jump in and get started with some questions here. We have a question that came in on Facebook, and this mom has been waiting because we've been on a little bit of a hiatus, both you and I.
So let me just quickly say
Yes.
good morning to all of our viewers. I've been gone for a few weeks, and I want to thank everybody for staying tuned, and we're excited. This is our first time on Facebook Live, and hopefully it'll work out. So thanks everyone for joining.
We're praying for internet, strong internet. Okay, so dear Dr. Doreen, this is our first question. Can you give some ideas as to how to teach story comprehension? As in listening to stories that's presented at school and answering questions about them afterwards. What's the first step that needs to be taught? My son is almost 4 years old with ASD, and thank you so much. So
Sure.
Story comprehension.
So this was one of the very early things that we wanted to focus on. I remember many years ago when I started working with kids on the spectrum, I remember thinking this is one of the key areas that we need to work on, and it still is one of the problem areas for our kids. And like everything else in ABA, the answer is that you break it down into very small chunks and you teach the individual steps first, and then you chain the behavior. So what that means is that you would generally just start with the shortest type of question that you possibly could. So for instance, you'll show the child a picture of something and say, this is whatever, this is big, or this is red, or her name is Sally, or some fact that is very short, and then you will immediately ask that same question. What's her name? So her name is Sally, and you'll say, what's her name? And then obviously, because it's sort of an immediate recall situation, your child will most likely be able to answer that. So then what you do is you will increase the length of what you're saying. So you'll say, this is Sally, and she lives in Idaho. And then you'll go back and say, what was her name? What is her name? And so you'll have a secondary fact in the middle of the question that you're about to ask. So you'll have two facts, and then you ask a question about the first fact. And then essentially, that's how you build a story. I mean, we would generally go with one first, and then two, and then three. And when you're up to three basic phrases, of course, then you have to ask different types of questions as well. So, for instance, this is Elmo. Elmo likes chicken nuggets. Elmo goes to McDonald's, that type of thing. And then you'll say, what did Elmo like? What was his name? And where does he go? And those are all different types of questions. So immediately you know that a prerequisite lesson is knowing the WH questions. And that's a separate lesson where you go one by one, and it takes a while to teach the child to answer a series of what questions, where questions, who questions, and so on, why questions, and so on. There's a series of them. So, every task that we want to teach our kids, even if it sounds like a very simple thing, which is just listening to a story and answering questions, you come to realize that there's all these more basic prerequisite skills that also have to be taught first. So in this case, you want to make sure your child is able to answer, understands the concept of different locations, different people, and has a whole series of attributes and adjectives that they're familiar with, colors, shapes of objects, functions of objects, all these types of things, because you're going to be asking questions about that content. And then you want to make sure the child is pretty proficient in the answering of WH questions. That's a separate lesson. And then you will start this, which is the short, give one fact and ask a question, give two facts and ask a question, and then you will rotate the types of questions. So, and then, of course, you get to a point where you will have a whole paragraph. Now, it always helps our kids. Usually, our kids are much more visual. It helps them to be able to do reading comprehension, or to be able to see the page. And then, of course, the last or most difficult is to read the child a whole paragraph or even a page without them seeing, but being able to pick the more salient and important facts. It often helps our children to be able to kind of take notes. Teaching a child to organize their thoughts and take notes is a very, very valuable skill. So that's a separate thing where you basically, for instance, the child can, as you're telling the story, you can teach the child how to write all the names they hear, and all the places, and all the little notes about each person. And that's a whole separate lesson. So all of these things kind of come together to be able to teach listening comprehension. For a better review of these, I will refer you to Skills, which is www.skillsforautism.com. And when you go there, and if you answer a series of questions about your child, so we can assess the skill level your child currently has, then you'll be directed to all of these lessons anyway. And if you just want to kind of play around on Skills and find these lessons, I believe most of this type of conversational stuff, like reading comprehension, will most likely, reading comprehension and probably listening comprehension will be in the academic curriculum. But all the basic prerequisites lessons that I mentioned are either going to be in the language curriculum or in the social curriculum, and you can always search and it will find all these lessons for you and give you a lot more detail.
Spectacular. Me here for a second. We want to thank Richard for joining us, and we're going to take your question next. I just want to do a brief follow-up on this question that we were asking about teaching comprehension. There's a section in the recovered video that shows Vince Redmond teaching Jana the very beginning steps that you were talking about comprehension. And I think for a lot of parents, we think that when we're watching that, it looks like it goes so slowly, so slowly. But one of the things I want to encourage people is to watch Recovered, because you see Jana at the early stages of what you were just talking about, and then you get to see her further along, and you see that the progress that is made. It is something that requires a little bit of patience, don't you think, Dr. Grampiche?
Absolutely does, because you come to see how our kids will get sort of distracted, or they will forget. This is called working memory, being able to hold information online even if other information is coming at you. But many of our kids have a hard time with working memory, because you'll tell them a second fact or a third fact and the child will be like, the first one's gone, and it's hard for them. And that's just the mind, it's kind of a memory practice skill. And the more you practice these, the better the child gets. And you're right. Thank you for remembering that. That is exactly showing kind of the sequence of events when you're working on listening comprehension.
Really powerful stuff, though. But again, we thank Richard for writing in a question. His question is, when a child is having a meltdown, is it common that they will not remember what they did? We've got why. I'm not sure whether it's why or what they did during the meltdown. Can you talk to us a little bit about meltdown?
Yeah, I mean, there's two aspects to this, and thank you, Richard. Great question, very deep question. As a behavior analyst, you always have to kind of ask yourself, what is the function of the behavior? So if a child is having a meltdown, it's very important to note why they are having that meltdown. Meltdowns are usually an expression of frustration, so it's really important to determine what caused the frustration. Is the child unable to express themselves in some way? Like, are they not getting their point across, which is usually why our kids kind of lose it? Or are they just doing that because that has become their way of winning? So, a child might have a meltdown because they've realized every time I have a meltdown, I kind of get my way. They might have a meltdown because when they have a meltdown, people give them the things they want. There's many different reasons, and it's really important to have the ability to identify that function, the reason for the meltdown, in order to be able to deal with it and in order to be able to intervene correctly. Now, the psychologist in me says, meltdowns are traumatic to begin with. They're not extremely traumatic, but they are. Biochemically, you essentially, all sorts of chemicals are produced in your body, and you are, depleting yourself of a series of neurotransmitters. You basically, you have a surge of neurotransmitters where your emotion, dopamine, is all over the place, and serotonin is down, and your system is not in a homeostasis process. It's definitely in an overload process, and so whenever your neurotransmitters are not balanced, you will have difficulty remembering what's going on. So an example of that, it's funny because this morning I had such a hard time remembering some stuff, and I was saying I've just gone through a personal tragedy, and whenever you have any kind of traumatic events go on in your life, you also lose memory. Memory is one of the things that's associated with all of those balanced neurotransmitters, and so it is not uncommon for a child to not be aware of what they're doing during the meltdown. It is somewhat traumatic. The child is out of control. And also remember that when a child hits or aggresses during a meltdown, they're not doing it out of spite or anything evil. They're just angry. They're frustrated. They're just lashing out. So we as adults tend to label those behaviors, and the child doesn't. From the child's perspective, there is this, hitting someone is just the same as screaming or hitting themselves. They're just frustrated. So it is very common that the child won't recall any of what they did. And to be honest, it isn't important what they did, because the truth is that whatever it was, if it was an inappropriate way of communicating, which most meltdowns are, then it's important to teach the child an alternate way of communicating, which would be language or some form of nonverbal communication. in to replace the meltdown. So really, what happens during a meltdown is not at all important. It's just important to identify why the meltdown is happening and then to replace it with something more appropriate.
Wonderful. I hope that, Richard, let us know if you want further information about that. Peggy has written into us from Germany. She says, much love from Germany.
Nice.
My son is 3 on the spectrum. I wonder, how can I get him to eat and also eat different things? Since months, he only eats one certain food. And she says, thank you.
Hi, Peggy. My ex-husband is German, so my children grew up knowing German as well, and we go to Germany quite a bit. So nice to have someone from Germany logging in.
And Richard says thank you, by the way, too.
Oh, my pleasure. This is kind of fun, being able to communicate with people all
It
over the
is
world.
fun.
It's awesome. So, Peggy, eating one thing is a big thing, is a very common issue with autism. We have a lot of children become very, very picky with the object that they're eating, or they narrow their diet to one object. Now, why is that? So let's talk about that for a minute, and then we'll talk about how to make it a broader diet. So in my opinion, what happens with children, with us, with adults, let's say you go to a restaurant and you'll eat some kind of food. Let's say you'll have sauerkraut. And you won't feel good. You'll come home and you don't feel well the next day. What happens as an adult is that you will now no longer eat sauerkraut, and you will not eat foods that are similar. So you'll think, oh, maybe I shouldn't eat other types of cabbage as well. Oh, maybe I shouldn't go to that restaurant. Maybe it was something having to do with that particular restaurant. So that's called generalization, response generalization. You won't just eliminate sauerkraut. You'll eliminate the things that are similar to it, and possibly even things that are connected but not related. So the restaurant, it could have nothing to do with the restaurant, but in your mind there's a connection, so you'll avoid the restaurant because you didn't feel well. What happens with our children is they will eat certain things and they don't feel good. It doesn't make them feel good. It makes them feel bloated, let's say. Let's say our children might eat dairy, and the dairy might not feel well, or some other food. So over time, they will get rid of that food, but they will also get rid of other foods that look the same or feel the same, because they're children. They don't think the way we think. So for instance, a child might decide, okay, I don't feel well when I have broccoli, or it doesn't taste good, I don't want broccoli. So definitely then they will also avoid green beans and other green vegetables just because broccoli is green. Or they'll have a different type of food that's mushy, let's say mashed potatoes, and they don't like it, it makes them gag, they have a reflex to it. So then they'll start to avoid other foods that are also mushy, any other food, and they'll start to really select very crunchy foods only, and will only eat chips or carrots or things that are crunchy because it's the opposite of something that made them feel bad. So that's happening. So on the one hand, this is called learned behavior. The children are learning to generalize, wrong generalization, but they overcompensate, they overgeneralize, and they'll stop eating certain types of foods. The other thing that's happening is that's very important to pay attention to, is that the child will crave certain foods that give them a feeling of endorphins. Now this is really important because our children tend to want to eat a lot of gluten products that have gluten, which is the protein in whole grains. So of course wheat and all the grains will have gluten in them. Gluten has the tendency, because of the shape, when you eat gluten, when you eat anything, any protein, the protein breaks down to peptides and then amino acids. So there's 2 stages of breakdown. what we've learned is that many of us, not just children with autism, but many people don't break down to the amino acid level. They just break down to peptide chains, which is sort of a bunch of amino acids attached to each other. Those chains will then leak through the gut, and will go through the blood-brain barrier and will mimic endorphins. Those peptide chains of gluten resemble very much our own body's endorphins, which means, basically, short version means when you eat gluten, let's say French fries, you will feel endorphins. You'll feel kind of high, like a little bit dizzy, a little bit out of it, like as if you've had alcohol, as an example, a little drunk. So children will crave those particular foods, and at the same time they're eliminating the other foods that they didn't feel well. So as a result, over time they become very picky. Now, the psychologist, again, in me says that there's also an anxiety factor related. When you're trying to exert control over your environment, you're not willing to try too many new things. You just want things to be the same. So you're only going to try the foods that you know are okay, and it becomes very, very narrow. I've had children narrow their diet all the way down to like one food, which is, let's say, perfect shaped Cheerios, which becomes very, very difficult, of course. And there's no doubt there's an anxiety factor there as well. They become obsessive compulsive, and it's very important to handle all of that. So now, what do? It's very simple what you do. You take the preferred food, and the preferred food now becomes the reinforcer. This is called the Premack principle. You use something that is desired, preferred, to increase the occurrence of things that are not preferred. So you'll take, let's say, you'll get a baseline of what the child is eating right now. Let's say the child is eating 3 different types of foods. First, you want to look and see if they have anything in common. Are they all crunchy? Are they all soft? Are they all breaded products? You have to see why the child has narrowed down, because the reason that's important is if your child's eating only crunchy foods, then you want to make a note that you also need to introduce non-crunchy foods. That becomes an issue, something you have to teach. So you make a list of all the things the child's eating. That's your baseline, and now you want to increase that baseline. You will take another food, something completely good for the child, let's say, I don't know, a turkey breast, whatever it is, and you'll say, this is what I want the child to eat. Now what you do is you'll take a whole plate of the preferred food and 1 spoon of the non-preferred food. So you'll say, you will eat 1 spoon of this, and I'm going to give you the rest of this stuff. So you use the preferred food as reinforcement. And often it helps also to have an additional reinforcement in the room, like a TV. You'll have the television on, and the child is eating their preferred food, and what you do is you will offer them 1 piece of turkey, and of course they'll tantrum and scream and cry and all this sort of stuff, and you will no longer give the preferred food unless they take this 1 spoon of turkey. And it could be just half a spoon, it could be 1/4 of a spoon, it's the smallest amount. You give that, and then you allow them to have the rest of their preferred food. You turn on the TV, you make it fun, all this sort of stuff. Next day, or the next meal, you require now 2 spoons of turkey, and they get a ton of their preferred food. The next day, 3 spoons of turkey, and they get a ton. And this way you gradually increase the food that they did not want to eat. And it's a process, let me tell you. It'll take generally a couple of weeks to introduce 1 new food. And once you've done that, then you put that second food away, and now you go to a third food, and another new food, and you do the same thing with the other new food, and you eventually get to the point where your child is willing now to have a decent amount of the other foods, and then some of their preferred food. And that's really how we all are as children, and it goes to the point of, like eat your vegetables before you have your dessert type thing, and that's where your hope is that you'll get there. It does take a while. Feeding is one of the things that ABA is very, very good at, but if you can get a specialist to help you, that would be great. If you can't, I believe we have some feeding information, perhaps some videos about feeding on our IBT website, which is Institute for Behavioral Training. I believe the website is ibehavioraltraining.com. Please go on there and look for feeding, and it'll give you some information on how to develop a feeding program. I think in the past we might have also loaded one of my PowerPoints on the autism-live show. I've done a lot of training on feeding for different people, and it's important that it is a very step-by-step process and that you do it very gradually, because if you overload the child with something they don't want, they will throw up and gag, and the whole process will become aversive, and you don't want that. So, and it's important, of course, that whatever you are introducing to the child is healthy and good for them. So when doing feeding, I also recommend that you do make sure you're not giving the child something they're allergic to, or that might cause problems for their gastrointestinal system. Very long answer. I apologize. I hope that was helpful, Peggy.
I think that was really helpful. We're about halfway into the show. I want to take just a second to talk about, for those of you who are watching, if you missed the start of the show, this is a bobblehead, a Howie Kendrick bobblehead. We were at the Dodger game last night, the Autism Awareness Dodger game, and we are going to be giving this away. The first step is for you to share that you're watching Ask Dr. Doreen on Facebook Live. This is the first time we've ever done it on Facebook Live, and we welcome all of you. Eileen had written in and said, we use ABA daily, and it's excellent. She's got another question that we're going to get to in a second. Peggy said, that is great about the question. She says, I will absolutely do that. You've helped me so much. Thank you, because it's so hard to get help and a lot of information here in Germany. And Peggy, please check out on Autism Live. We've got a bunch of different videos for you as well. And we've been doing Ask Dr. Doreen for several years, and the questions are all coded. You can go to the beginning and watch the first 2 minutes and see all the questions that are asked during the episode. And that's, if you go to YouTube, youtube.com/autismlive. That's where you can go, and they're all free videos. So, but right now, if you want to win the Howie Kendrick, we're going to be telling you in 15 minutes the second step. But the first step is you have to tell people on Facebook that you are watching Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. She's a true expert in the field of autism, been working in this field for 30 some odd years. I hate telling on her, but she's helped so many individuals. And we've had a question that came in that I got to stop everything for this question. Shyamal has written in and said, what is ABA? So Dr. Granpeesheh, perhaps you can enlighten them.
Sure. So ABA is Applied Behavior Analysis, and that is the science of taking operant conditioning or behavior modification or changing behavior and applying it to something of significance, something very important. Now, operant conditioning says that if you can change a behavior by changing its surrounding factors. So you can either change a behavior by changing its antecedents, the things that happen before the behavior, or by changing its consequences, the things that happen after the behavior. And an example would be, I want to change my eating behavior. Let's say I don't want to eat after 7 o'clock at night. That's the behavior that I want to change. So how do I manipulate antecedents and consequences? Okay, antecedents would be, I can put a lock on the fridge. I can put a big clock on my fridge that shows it's past 7 o'clock or before 7 o'clock. I can tell all the people that I know to not allow me to go to the fridge. All these types of things that I'm doing are things that I do before the behavior occurs, and they help the behavior change. Then there's consequence manipulation, so I can change the consequences. So if I go to the fridge, I can tell my friends or family to reprimand me or to tell me, no, you can't go. Or I could, various things, I could somehow do it so that it's punitive things happen to me if I go to the fridge. So this is how now my behavior of going to the fridge after 7 p.m. changes. Now with children with autism, any behavior, anything that a person does is considered behavior. And so what we try to do with autism is we want to increase some behaviors that are not enough, they're deficient. So for example, language. We want to increase the child's language. We want to increase the child's social skills. We want to increase the child's cognitive, executive functioning skills, planning, problem solving, those skills. And there are some behaviors that we want to decrease, like we would like to decrease tantrums, aggression, running away behavior, all those types of things. So the behaviors that we want to decrease, we want to make sure that that there's no environmental reinforcement. There's nothing that is rewarding those behaviors. And the behaviors that we want to increase, like language and so on, are the ones that we heavily reinforce. So really, a summary of ABA is you reinforce and increase positive, appropriate, adaptive behaviors, and you decrease challenging behaviors, and essentially over time you will then replace all the challenging behaviors with more adaptive and appropriate behaviors.
Wonderful. And Eileen says, I describe it as basic bribery, but it works so well, even with my hubby, LOL. And I just want to say, we refer to ABA as the Autism Miracle in our living room. ABA is what gave us our child back. ABA is what made everything possible. I think a lot of times people get concerned, Dr. Granpeesheh, that if we're giving people rewards for doing behavior that we feel like they should do anyway, that eventually it's going to be this thing that they're going to want something every time they do something. Right. We've experienced the exact opposite. That by setting up a circumstance in our home where our child got rewarded for doing things that we wanted to see, behaviors that we wanted to increase, like you were saying, that he learned and became a sponge. And there's all kinds of things that we don't reinforce him for anymore, right. But we've got a kid who learns and is excited to learn and is happy. I think that's one of the things that I'm happiest about, that we devoted so much time to ABA, is it was the best parent training. We have the best relationship with our child. He's happy, and he is able to do things that he couldn't do before. Right. Anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, it's really important, Shannon, for people to realize that ABA is kind of taken something that happens in day-to-day life and just turned it into a science, like made it much more structured and organized. But in day-to-day life, if you think about it, we all do behaviors that are reinforced, right? One way or another. Now, some of these are good for us and some of them are bad for us. Like we go to work because ultimately we get money, and perhaps we get prestige, and perhaps we get camaraderie from our friends, and perhaps it gives us also a sense of belonging. There's a lot of reasons we go to work, but primarily across the globe, people go to work in order to earn money. Money is a secondary reinforcer. That's what it is. It's a reinforcer that you can use to purchase other things. So everything in life is reinforcement based, if you really think about it. Now, some of these behaviors, as I said, are not adaptive. Like a lot of people will go to the bar and get completely hammered. And that is because that feeling of being drunk is a reinforcer for them. That could be a reinforcer in a multitude of different ways. It could make them feel happy. It could make them forget their problems. Both of those things are reinforcing. Regardless, everything we do is maintained by reinforcement. So ABA just takes that principle and makes it much more structured and organized, and then kind of like teaches people who are certified in this field how to use those principles in a way to actually actively engage children and teach them the things they haven't learned typically. So, any child, typically developing child, will always do things because they want to please their parents. Initially, it's not like a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old goes to school, or a 6-year-old goes to school because they have plans for their future. No, the only reason they go to school is because the parents places them in school and then encourages them and is very, very happy about all their successes. And because the child eventually enjoys going to school because that's where their friends are. So unfortunately, both of those reinforcers are lacking from our children on the spectrum initially. In the very beginning, when our children are young, they're not aware enough of their parents' emotions. That's the theory of mind deficit. They don't have the ability to understand that and work for making their parents proud. Later on, that comes about, and then, of course, they start to learn very rapidly. But initially, they're very involved in their own being and existence and stuff, and they're not paying attention to how the parent views them. So they're lacking in that, in the motivation to please someone else, to please the parent. And because their language is delayed or their social skills are delayed, they don't enjoy being around other kids, or they don't know how to interact with other kids. So there is this factor, that all the normal reinforcements that work for typically developing kids are absent for our children. And ABA, if done well in the very early years, kind of takes reinforcers in the environment and shapes them so that our children actually access those reinforcers and want to learn. And once you have the ability, and once a child understands that learning is useful, then they just continue to learn, as you said, and then they enjoy learning.
Yeah, it gets exciting. Coming in, and I want to tell Raquel from the UK, we're going to get to your question in just a second, but next we're taking from Lisa, how do I help my son to decrease his verbalization of everything that comes into his head?
Oh yeah, kind of a difficult thing. So essentially, and this is very hard for me to answer because I don't know your child, I don't know his level of functioning, but generally speaking, I'll be very general on this, is that when I've had children who will just kind of repeat everything, it's not necessarily everything that comes into their head, it's either what they hear now or they heard in the past. So for instance, it's stuff that they watch on TV, and it's some echolalia. It's essentially called echoing things that you've heard. Could be immediate echolalia, so I'll repeat something I just heard, or it could be delayed echolalia, which is I'm repeating something I heard on a TV show, and hey, it sounds really cool, so I'm going to repeat it. The best way to reduce that behavior, there's two things you have to do, and again, it depends on the level of functioning of the child. If it's a very sort of early stage for the child, and the child doesn't have a lot of understanding of abstract concepts, then what you do is you just give the child a series of statements that you want them to say, and they immediately repeat those. So you'll say, my name is whatever, and they'll say it, and you reward them. And then when they say their own thing, you take away a reward or you ignore it. So essentially you make a huge difference between the echolalia that you're trying to get rid of and the echolalia that you want them to commit to. So if you tell them to repeat you reward them. It's kind of like Simon Says. And if they just are repeating things on their own, you ignore that, or you actually, let's say, will turn off the TV, which will be taking away a reinforcer. You take away a toy that's causing the excitement that's leading to the echolalia, which is taking away a reinforcer. You take away a reinforcer. Now, if your child's a little bit more advanced and has the ability, you want to start teaching them the difference between saying and thinking. And that's a little bit of a more advanced lesson, but it is a very important lesson because a lot of children will just speak and they don't understand the difference between speaking and thinking. And that is a much more advanced and a little bit difficult because you have to model for the child what you're thinking. We use a lot of what we call comic strips, so you'll draw mommy and you'll have a little bubble, and this is what I'm thinking, and you'll write in it, and this is what I'm saying, and you visually show that with a speech bubble or a speech sign, versus thought and saying, and you differentiate those. Now, there's many steps to this lesson, and the best way for you to do this, since I don't want to give you the steps, which will take me half an hour, is to go on skillsforautism.com, and actually look for this lesson, which is thinking versus saying, And I believe it's in the cognition curriculum, because this is having to do with our thoughts, beliefs, our knowledge, all the things that are in our head and the things that we vocalize. This is entering now the world of perspective taking. This is one of the first lessons in the whole arena of our minds are different. Children who repeat things constantly have a real strong deficit in theory of mind. They don't understand that what's in their head is supposed to stay in their head, and it's completely different from what's in other people's minds and thoughts. So I would recommend you go in skills and you look at the cognition curriculum. That curriculum, all those lessons have to do with this concept.
And it's fascinating. I want to quickly, because we got a bunch of questions coming in, get to Raquel or Rachel, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, from the UK. She says, hi from the UK. How can I encourage my 7-year-old boy to drink more? When it's warmer weather, he eats and drinks a lot less, and his weight and hydration suffers. Thank you for writing in.
That's a great question, and it's a very easy question. There's a couple of things you could do. You could add something that improves taste of the water. I mean, nowadays you see with children, they're drinking so much more of the vitamin water, which is really water with a tiny amount of fruit essence, which makes it a lot easier and much more palatable. Or you could put him on a schedule, which means basically you put a timer in the room, and every time the timer goes, he has to go over and get a sip. Or you just teach him the way that I was talking about feeding, which is you reinforce his eating and drinking behavior with something else. So let's say he wants to play with a particular toy. You teach him that every time you want to get this toy, you first have to go eat something or drink something. The healthiest way to do this is to just put him on a schedule, which most of us are. And the schedule, for instance, with water consumption, it's very easy because you can have a container, a large container, which, basically you're supposed to have double your weight in ounces. So, or is it, let me see, half your weight in ounces. So whatever his weight is, fill a container with the amount of water you want him to drink every day, and give him a huge reward if he finishes it by the end of the day. And if that's very hard for him, help him initially, maybe turn it into 8 cups, and each time he finishes a cup, give him a big reward, and gradually get him to the point where he finishes all 8 cups in a day, and then he gets a big reward. Make it a visual thing for him. It's a lot easier teaching these good habits when you have young children than it is to teach ourselves when we're adults, because we get so distracted. But that's a very easy and basic kind of reinforcement schedule that you can put him on.
Wonderful. Okay, Laura wants to know, how can I get my high-functioning daughter to stop hitting? She hits out of frustration or when she doesn't get her own way. We're thanking everybody for writing in questions. I'm going to get to as many of them as I can. Don't go away. But this first one about a high-functioning daughter hitting.
So again, and good job figuring out the reason or the function of the behavior. The only way that she's going to, there's 2 things you need for her to stop hitting when she doesn't get her own way. She has to have a different way of communicating, and that way has to work. So in other words, if she hits, she still has to not get her own way, but if she asks, she has to get her own way. And you have to make that differentiation. So figure out a communication form for her to be able to get her own way, and it has to work. So she can't ask, you have to make sure that if she asks, she gets what it is she wants. If she hits, she doesn't. And if you can make that happen, those 2 circumstances, I guarantee you the hitting will go away. The asking will increase. The next difficult thing becomes, what if she asks and you can't give her what she wants? But then that's a second phase, and that's dealt with differently. So in your case right now, I think what you want to do is you want to make sure that she asks, she gets, she hits, she doesn't get, and then that will automatically fix the problem.
Okay, we have a question that's coming to us from Islamabad, Pakistan.
Wow.
They said, hi, this is me, Wajat Hussain. I am teaching autistic children in Islamabad, Pakistan. So what food should I suggest to autistic children's parents?
Well, that's a very difficult question because all children have different allergies, different reactions. Some children will have different preferences, obviously, but the two foods that we've found in the United States. Now, I don't know if this is true in Pakistan because your food source is completely different than ours. But the two primary, food sources that are not good, that have been shown to cause some gastrointestinal problems for some children, are gluten and casein. The third and fourth are soy and corn. Those are the four top foods that have caused problems for some children on the spectrum. Gluten is the protein in whole grains. Casein is the protein in dairy. And then we have soya products and, of course, corn products. And in the United States, a lot of our foods have some form of corn in them. And our dairy is not necessarily very good. Our animals have been treated very differently than animals in other countries. So I don't know if these four would be the same in Pakistan. When I travel, I notice that other countries don't have the same type of dietary issues we have here in the United States. I would say, if you're in Pakistan, you probably want to be careful with the normal things, like make sure the children are not ingesting too much sugar, because that'll make them very hyperactive. Perhaps try to see if the children do better with less gluten, so don't give them things that contain gluten if you can. In many other countries, it's very hard to find things that are gluten-free. Here in the US, it's very common now to find gluten-free. And treat the children differently. Each child might have a reaction to one food and the next child won't. So that's a very difficult situation that you're in. I don't know if the children have resources to see doctors. They are able to do testing to see if these children, organic acid metabolite testing can generally tell you if a child should stop taking gluten or casein or soy or corn.
Wonderful. For everybody at this point, we went last night to Autism Awareness Night at Dodger Stadium. We have this fabulous bobblehead, a Howie Kendrick bobblehead. He hit a home run last night during the game. It was pretty exciting, and we said that's why he's a bobblehead. But we are giving this away. The first thing that you have to do, the first step, is to, on Facebook, share on Facebook that you are watching Ask Dr. Doreen live on Facebook. And the step 2 that I promised we would give to you at this point in the program, you need to email me. I need to have an address from which to mail you. So we will pick at random from the people who did share and sent us their address. So you need to email me at as in Sam, Penrod, Penrod, as in dog, at autism-live.com. Again, that's s.penrod at autism-live.com. That's if you want to win the bobblehead, but you have to have shared this information on Facebook that you were watching Ask Dr. Doreen on Facebook Live. Okay, our next question from Karen, and we're in the home stretch. Dr. Grant has been working hard, but she's doing a great job. From Karen, she'd like to know, I'd love to learn more about what to do with adult siblings on the spectrum. My sister is in her 20s, and no one around us seems to understand that meltdowns are not necessarily age affiliated. I can see that somebody already emailed me. I can ask people to see the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown with a child, but they don't seem to realize that autism doesn't just go away because someone grew up.
That's right. Yes, and it's very interesting. It's very important, I think, for people to realize that tantrums and all of these challenging behaviors are not part of the symptoms of autism. they're some of the side effects of autism. So not every individual with autism has tantrums, but every individual who's frustrated and doesn't know how to better communicate will have tantrums. So whether it's autism or, I don't know, some other illness that causes you to be isolated, or some other serious traumatic event, or whatever else it might be that causes you to feel so frustrated that you think the only way you'll get your point across is a tantrum, can occur at any age. It can occur at 2, it can occur at 40, it doesn't matter. Most of the time with us, all children will tantrum, and as you grow up, you realize and you learn more effective ways, and you realize that society will not accept tantruming. Now, if it's an individual with autism, unfortunately, they don't learn that society won't accept tantruming, and they don't give it up. Instead, they continue to tantrum because tantruming remains the only effective way to communicate. So the individual who's an adult, if they learned a more effective way to communicate, they would also stop tantruming. But for whatever reason, whether it's the depth of their disability or it's just what's in their environment, they're not currently learning a more effective way to communicate. And that's really, it does not matter what age they are.
We've had so many questions, Dr. Graham, about tantrums. I want to take just a second to talk about when we're with someone who is on the autism spectrum, what should we be doing in the moment? Because we get nervous, we get tense. I know as a parent, when we used to experience this, I would think it was, honestly, I'm just being honest, I would feel like it was going to be the rest of my life, that the tantrum, there was a possibility that it could never end. Can you give us any tips and pointers for all ages? Are there, and does it change?
Yes. So, tantruming is really just an expression of frustration. It's when you are very young and you don't have any language, when you're 1, let's say, or below 1, when you're a baby, you'll tantrum for everything. You'll scream if you want mommy, you'll scream if you want your diaper changed, you'll scream if you're hungry, you scream if you're tired. So it is the primary form of communication. Now you become 1 and you'll learn mommy. And so now you realize every time I scream, people think maybe I need a diaper change, or it takes a while for people to figure out what it is. But if I say mommy, mommy appears immediately. So mommy becomes a much more effective form of communication. I'm going to use that. We figure out at around 1, 1.5, if I say chicken or nuggets, then I'll get the food I want. So that's much more effective than just screaming. But hey, if I want that toy and my sibling is playing with it, and I say, toy, or give me the toy, or whatever the toy's name is, my sibling still won't give it to me. But if I hit and if I tantrum, then I get it. So tantruming seems to be more effective than asking for a toy. So I'm going to keep tantruming. And then what happens is a parent or an adult comes and punishes. And then the child's like, oh, wait, tantruming isn't that good because I just got punished for tantruming and taking away that toy. So maybe I need to figure something else out. And so this process of development over time is just us figuring out what is the most effective reinforcer, what is the most effective form of communication that will get me access to my reinforcers. Initially, my reinforcer is just the object. Later on, my reinforcers become the object as well as the approval of my parent. So society then produces all these kind of additional reinforcers that we're striving for. I want to look cool. I don't want to lose my cool. I don't want to make my parents unhappy. I don't want to make my teacher unhappy. I don't want my friends to think I'm weird. And those are all the reasons that we stop tantruming. So when you're a parent and you have a child tantruming, don't think this is lifelong. It is not lifelong. Any tantrum, I don't care the severity of autism. I have had the most severe adults who are tantruming so much that they will put their head through a glass shield, okay? Severe adults, easily we've been able to teach them alternate forms of communication, and their tantrums are completely gone, completely gone. What you have to do is figure out what is causing the tantrum, make the environment fair. So you have to allow the individual ways, or you teach them ways to ask for things, ways to ask to get away from things, ways to escape things, ways to gain access to things, ways to request a break, ways to communicate how they feel. All those types of things will then help replace tantrums because they become more effective. And at the same time, the tantrum has to not be effective. So if your child is tantruming, or if you're an adult who's tantruming, don't get scared. Try actually to not deal with it at that moment, because most of the time when someone tantrums, we panic, we give them everything, and what you're doing is you're reinforcing the tantrum. Before you give them anything, please make sure that you at least teach the individual to vocalize, point to a picture, other ways communicate with you what they really want so that you can reinforce that behavior. Teach the individual to communicate in alternate forms, reward those forms of communication, and do not give in to tantrums or challenging behavior.
Wonderful.
It's very hard, Shannon, and you know this, of course, and we just want to encourage all of our parents to not give up. It does seem very overwhelming, but when you break it down and you deal with one thing at a time, it becomes manageable.
Wonderful. I want to have 4 minutes left. For those of you who are writing in and saying thank you so much for doing this, I want to point out and let you know that we've been doing this for a long time. Autism Live has a series of videos, and we have a lot of taped versions of Ask Dr. Doreen, and they all live on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/autism-live, and there's a whole series of playlists that are Ask Dr. Doreen. In the first minute of each one of them, as you start the video, you can see all the questions that Dr. Doreen answered during that particular episode. There are other videos there as well, including a whole series with Temple Grandin and every subject and every expert that we can find that we've interviewed over the last 4 years. So that's at Autism Live, or it's at youtube.com/autism-live. We also have our own website, autism-live.com, and we're available on Roku and iTunes. It's free everywhere that you go. We don't really have time, but I'm going to put you through your paces for this last 3-minute question. If you would answer, this came into us on our live feature. Hello, I need help with my son. They just diagnosed him with autism. He is a 6-year-old boy. He is not verbal. I watched one video you have about recovery. He's just has one speech therapy. I need help. It makes me emotional.
Yes. It's a very difficult situation, and I hope that this viewer is with us now. Please do the following things. I don't know where you are. It sounds like you may not be in the US, but that you have access to a few websites where we have developed companies that will help you. The first place that I would recommend you go is the Institute for Behavioral Training, behavioraltraining.com, and go on there and start training as a parent. This is very, very low cost, and you can learn all about autism, ABA, how to teach. You learn the techniques, okay? This will take you several months. Get involved and start doing it right away. As you're doing this, also go to another website, which is skillsforautism.com. And on the skills website, start answering questions about your child. That's called the skills index or assessment. Do the assessment about your child, the long assessment. Answer all the questions. It'll take you a while. The questions are, can your child do various things, yes or no? So as you're doing the assessment, you're learning the techniques, okay? Learn the techniques, but the assessment is very important, because when you finish the assessment, it will produce a curriculum for you. It will tell you anything that your child cannot do. Skills will show you how to teach it. It'll give you all the content. If your child doesn't speak, we'll get your child speaking. It'll teach you all the different things, lessons, hundreds of lessons that you will need to teach your child over the next 3 to 4 years to get your child functioning better, okay? In every area, whether it's language or play or social cognition, whatever it is, Go On Skills, it's packed with content. It's the biggest curriculum you can find. It has every skill that a human being should have, and you will be able to select them based on what your child needs. Now, at the same time, you need ABA training, and you're going to get that from IBT, Institute for Behavioral Training. What I also recommend you do is you try to rally up family members, friends, neighbors, students, high school students, college students, people who want to be able to be part of your team. This is not something you can do alone. It is very difficult as a single parent to do this. You'll need a team of 4 or 5 people to be with you and learn the techniques. And then what you do is you take all of your child's free time, all of it. I don't care how much free time they have. If they're not doing school, you have them doing ABA. And you divide all those hours, let's say 30 hours of free time a week, including weekends, including evenings, all the time. And you divide it amongst yourself and these 4 or 5 other team members, and each of you sit down and you start doing the ABA that you learned on IBT, teaching the content that you learned on skills to your child, and I promise you they'll do better. You just need to get the team going, train everyone, and start doing this intervention. Now, if you are somewhere close to an ABA provider, whether it's CARD or someone else, please just contact the ABA provider, because it's really a lot for a parent to take on. You can do it. I've had parents do it very successfully, but if you're close to someone who can give you assistance, please contact them.
Wonderful. We're out of time, unfortunately, but we really want to thank you and thank all the viewers who were with us today from all around the world. There were a lot of different resources that Dr. Grampiche gave you, so I'm going to very quickly go through them. ibehavioraltraining.com for IBT, skillsforautism.com. And if you want to find out more information about Dr. Grampiche, you can go to centerforautism.com.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
I'm Shannon Penrod, and we've already got guests in the studio.
And we've got giggles going.
We do have giggles. When you put the
Do only girls
together,
giggle, Matt?
No, boys giggle too.
They do.
He giggles. He giggles like
we
a
have to work
schoolgirl.
hard to make it happen. But so we're here with Matt Asner and Nava Paskowitz. You know, we like to bring you a segment called Autism Family Portraits, and we asked them to be here because they're 2 of our favorite people. They're really autism royalty.
I call them the first family of autism.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Thank you.
What a dubious extinction,
And I,
right?
of course, refer to you guys as the Brady Bunch
Yeah.
of
Yes.
autism,
Which
which you
you've been
sometimes
written up
refer to
as,
as
yeah.
yourselves.
Yeah.
Because you're currently very happily married, but this is not the first go-round for either one of you.
No?
Blended family.
Yeah.
Blended family, 6 kids total, and half of them have diagnoses
Basically.
on the
Exactly.
on
Well,
the
they
spectrum.
all have something. I mean, even ADHD. I have ADHD for sure.
And I do
Really?
too.
Yeah. And his ADD was in
Yours
full
was bad
regalia.
at breakfast this
Yeah,
morning.
he
Mine was bad. It was
Yeah.
full-fledged this
It
morning.
was.
Did you
I was
forget to
like,
take your
Matt?
meds again?
And Nava was like, Matt.
forgot.
So anyway, but it's not just your immediate family, your
No.
kids. You're part of really an entertainment family
Yeah.
dynasty as well. Your father, of course, is the famous, infamous, one of my favorite people, Ed Asner, the one
Yes.
and only.
That's correct.
For those of you that are under the age of 30, which I find it shocking that anybody wouldn't know who Ed Asner
No,
is.
everybody does.
Well, it's easy. I have a formula for it.
Okay, what is it?
So if you're over 30,
Yeah.
you say Mary Tyler Moore
Right.
or Lou Grant.
Okay.
Or that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Lou Grant. Hello.
Lou Grant.
Yeah.
And then if they're under 30, you say Elf or Up.
Yeah.
And-
Or
and-
Toy Story. I mean,
or-
no, Up,
Yeah,
not Toy
Elf
Story.
or Up.
Elf or
and
Up.
that basically does it. It covers the
Okay,
whole base.
that covers so yeah, because
But-
he really runs the gamut of
Exactly.
But Nava
life
has
experience.
a very famous dad as well,
Yes.
Doc Paskowitz.
Yes.
And your whole family was under a lot of press scrutiny, and they have had a lot of coverage as well. So both of you had families that were in the public eye.
Yes.
Nava's father was a world-renowned surfer, fitness expert, doctor. She had a very unconventional upbringing on a bus, was it?
A VW.
Yeah, I mean, my
Camper?
dad was
Camper?
Stanford educated, and he gave it all up and threw us all in a camper, and we traveled around the world.
And how many siblings?
I have 8 brothers. My brother Israel started Surfers Healing.
Yes.
But in our family, both of our
Combined families, how many
we
people
have a
on the
lot of
spectrum?
people. A
Do
lot
you
of
think?
people.
Did you add it up?
Well, technically,
7 in my family.
Yeah,
And how many in yours?
4.
That's a lot.
4, I think.
So you've got your
lot.
Matt. You've got a brother
I have a brother, a
Brother.
nephew, and
and
a
a son.
Yeah.
And okay, so
And 2 of
you-
my
nephews?
I have 4 children. So when we got married,
Right.
with Matt's 2, we have 6.
right.
And my 2 middle boys, or my 2 youngest, one is high functioning Asperger's. The youngest has autism.
And then you've got nephews with autism
I have nephews, and my 2 of my brothers I would considered
on the spectrum.
definitely.
Okay.
They didn't speak till they were 5 years old.
So okay.
And my dad always says that it's not autism, it's asnerism. 'Cause he has a preoccupation with the self,
Right.
So
right.
As
we
he
always
should.
say that he's definitely on the spectrum as well.
Right. Okay.
And in fact, you have so much going on in your family that a short documentary was made about, and we have a short clip to show a scene from that. So Samantha, roll that scene for us.
Got cleavage.
You have to be the most patient human being on earth to have a special needs child. Each one of the kids has some deficit in learning. So we have some of the kids with severe ADHD, and then some of them with real, true autism. But each one of my kids has a little taste of something.
Dad, I'm a teenager. I don't want to get looked at by you.
And Matt's as well. Both of his children are on the spectrum. When I met Matt, I had 4 kids. He had 2. It was literally probably the first month we were together that somebody said, "You guys are the Brady Bunch of autism." I mean, it's crazy. And that stuck. It really stuck. There's different levels, and we have literally one of each.
There are many beautiful things about autism, many, many beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous things about autism. But the very stark reality is that it's going to put some massive hurdles in front of the development of your child. Mm-hmm. And that is something that is not beautiful.
You say you've gotten letters from around the world, people feedback
Absolutely.
about how real you were there. How
Yeah, I
authentic.
mean, we were going through one of the hardest times of our life, and the chaos was just everywhere. And the walk was next week, and
Autism Speaks Walk.
the autism walk, and
We might want to say that Matt was, up until just very recently,
yes,
you were with Autism Speaks.
I was.
Yes.
And now I'm with a different organization. I'm with Autism Society now. I'm proudly their
Of America.
vice president of development.
Uh-huh.
And I'm really excited and looking forward to some really fun things with them. And
Okay.
I think it's great. A great organization.
Right.
I'm thrilled to be
and
there.
we'll get back to your point about where you were when this was being done. And also, Nava, we should point out that you have an extensive background in working with individuals and families on the spectrum.
I've seen so much support for the children
Right.
over the years, and I was a single mom with 4 kids, and I saw so many of my friends and myself just falling apart. Anxiety, all these issues that we had
Substance
because
addiction.
we didn't have mental health support
Yeah.
for us.
Right.
So my passion has been being a life coach and doing these mindfully based support groups for moms and dads, and now the typical siblings.
And very exciting, you are actually in development right now.
Yes,
On a
with
project.
my father-in-law.
With your father-in-law, called the Ed Asner Family Centers.
Asner
which
Yes,
Family
and
Center.
we'll have a very exciting announcement at
It's
some
coming up.
point.
Yeah.
Yes.
it's
You know, that
coming
we'll have
up.
to be back on this show to make that
You're
announcement.
definitely going to have to
It's
come
gonna
back
be
on.
very
That's
exciting.
It's
So-
all in development, and the Ed
And
Asner
we can
Family
help
Centers
so
are going to
many
be
more families.
really a holistic approach
Yes.
to all the families as well as the kids and the young adults. So we're going to really look forward to when
Arts-based.
that becomes a
But
reality.
let's take a quick minute to just talk about challenges
Yes,
that you
you
guys have
said
had over
you
the
were-
years. What for each one of you, what do you think the biggest challenge has been over the years? Not necessarily right now, but over the years.
I mean, we've both lived as single parents with kids. For me, it was fear. You get trapped in the fear of the tantrum. Eddie was little when I went through my divorce, really little, and you know, I have anxiety disorder, and I just was trapped in the fear of should I take him someplace. I'll be honest and say I used to go through the drive-through to get milk at McDonald's because I was so afraid to take him into Ralph's.
When we got together, we were friends for a long time before we got together.
Yeah.
And when we got together, I realized she was literally afraid to take him out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so that had to change because I like restaurants.
Loves delicious food.
I do. So you know, we ventured out. And I think
Same.
you know, I think today Nava's able to go anywhere.
Oh,
which is great.
think a huge 75% of Eddie's, and that's a huge thing for me to say, 75% of Eddie's growing up and socially blossoming was because Matt took him out of his comfort zone. And here I'm, you know, just the helicopter mom. And he said, no, we're going to do this. Sometimes he would rip Eddie and say, I'm taking Eddie by myself. You stay here. You're too nervous. And it really, Eddie is just an incredible.
Can we clone you?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
I know my feeling about that, by the way, my feeling about that is, I feel that immersion is the best thing to do to any child. You know, and if you don't have a child out in life, in baseball games, perfect example of that. We went to a baseball game. We had an awareness night. We went to a baseball game,
With Shannon.
and it was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. The first
Loud.
10, 20 minutes, really hard.
Yeah.
But about 20 minutes into the game, there was a switch that went off, and he was like, "Oh, I like this. This is kind of cool."
Yeah.
And then you, as a parent, you kind of look. I was looking around, and I'm thinking, okay, we're under an overhang, which is concrete and reverberates and accentuates sound. And so I said, well, we're going to steal some seats down a little further down outside.
Yeah.
And it was much different and much more calming. And we would retreat down and then up and then down.
But there was that moment that you had to make a decision because I had that wild look in my
Oh, yeah.
eye, and I'm like, we have to get out of here. We got to go.
Dead
And
dog.
he
We
looked-
all know that feeling.
He
Yes.
looked at me and he's like, 5 more minutes. Just keep and each time I would have my flip out, he would kind of like get through that flip out. And on the other side was Eddie really enjoying himself. So it was really like a very pinnacle moment in our.
Well, and I think actually that's a great analogy for us as parents. Is I think a lot of what we do as autism parents reflects on who we are as people, and it's our fears and it's our hopes and it's our. And I think at some point, and I think we've both done this, I think, really well, is we have to let go of what our hopes are, and kind of look at each individual child and say, what are their hopes? What are their hopes? I mean, you know, it's kind of difficult in some cases, but it's important. It's important, I think, to kind of let go of what your fears are and your hopes are, and just kind of really look at what's going on with them.
And I know we've only got a minute more, but maybe you guys could talk a little bit about
Well,
the
that's
challenge.
if we decide to do it. We could do more, right?
Only a minute
We
more.
have a
We could
great
push a little
guest
bit.
that's coming up after you guys. And we
Larry
don't
won't
wanna make
mind.
him.
He's fine.
It's not Larry. It's Sam Tripoli, the comic.
Oh,
that's
Sam
coming.
Tripoli. I'm
Yeah,
not going to
so-
screw with Sam Tripoli.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
Because he looks fierce.
Okay.
But maybe if you could talk a little bit about, you mentioned earlier before we came on, there's a challenge that you guys are being faced
facing
with
it.
right now.
We're
Yeah.
desperate. The Brady Bunch of Autism is desperate to find another caregiver. We have, we've both, Matt's obviously working full time, and I'm going back to work full time, and we're in desperate need of somebody. And it's very hard for me to trust somebody, so I want to find somebody that is a good match.
I think I might have an answer for you.
Well, that's
Hopefully.
good, and that's hard. You know, I mean,
It's so hard.
it's difficult. I think you have to really trust the people that you work with,
For sure.
and you're like leaving someone responsible for your child that, you know.
Can't explain to you if something goes wrong.
And there have been movies made about that, right?
Yeah.
A couple of them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Couple
a
of
couple
them.
of them.
Yes.
Right.
But,
But-
tragic.
Well, maybe if there are any viewers out there that are hearing this, you
Yes,
might want to
please.
write us. And like I said, I have some ideas for you guys. So,
Great.
all right. So we could go on for how many hours? I mean, let's
We
face
could.
it. We could just
Yes.
keep going. We could sit here all day.
Should we
but
mess with Sam Tripoli a little?
No,
I want to mess with him a
Fierce
little
to
bit.
me.
He looks pretty fierce.
He's
Yeah,
a little edgy,
I wouldn't mess
Oh.
with Sam. All right, so we're gonna let you go. Please
Great.
give your father a kiss
I
from his
will.
girlfriend, his favorite
Yes.
fan,
I will.
and tell him I can't wait to see him so he can tell me I have spunk.
I'm sure he's puckering up right now.
Okay, and we're gonna have you back soon.
Great.
Yes.
Right?
Thank
Okay.
We want to be
Right,
back
thank
soon.
you.
We're going to announce our big thing.
We
Yes.
are.
Well, actually, Nava's big thing, not
Yeah,
my big
yeah,
thing.
yeah. But you're part of it.
I'm a part of
Yeah,
it.
you're a part of
I'm inherently a part of
it.
it.
You are. Yeah. All right.
Genetically.
Genetically.
Thank you guys so
Thank you
much
guys.
for giving everybody so much hope and for, you know, I mean, there's so many things that you guys do in this community, but also the fact that people watching can see that even if it hasn't worked out before, you can still find love
Second chances.
when
or
you're
third
dealing
or
with
fourth.
spectrum issues.
Yes, you can find love.
You can. They are so happy that we
I
always
want
say
you guys
that,
to do a class on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You
They
never
are,
know.
We
They-
did. We did a marital
Yeah, we did.
workshop.
Because
You
you know,
never know, it
like I
could
said to
continue.
Shannon, oh yeah, you know, because now I'm a widow.
yes,
I'm in the
it's
class.
coming
Okay, we
soon.
gotta
Oh
go.
my
But
God.
we're out of time. We're gonna talk forever.
Anyway, we always say that be around these two for very long and your blood sugar
Oh.
will go up because they are so happy. It's a
Oh,
compliment.
it's sickening.
All right, we're going to take a break, and as we go to break, the first thing we're going to show you is another promo for the show that they did, and we will put on our Facebook the links so that you guys can find your way to watch that entire show because it's very inspirational. Take a look. When
we'll
we
be
come
back
we're back
with
with
more
Sam
laughs.
Tripoli,
More fun
stand-up comic.
and games.
Stick with us.
Okay. So,
There are many beautiful things about autism, many, many beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous things about autism. But the very stark reality is that it's going to put some massive hurdles in front of the development of your child. And that is something that is not beautiful.
I'm starting to think he's smarter than me.
Functional pretend play. Imitating?
During clinic, everyone on Jack Riley's team meet at CARD headquarters. Here, parents, supervisors, and therapists go over any questions, concerns, and new skills to be taught.
I think we have.
You're gonna go off. Look how cozy he is with you guys now.
He's
He's gonna lean on her knee.
He's leaning on you. We were having him like give us fire truck and then having him say it afterwards, but now we're realizing he knows a lot, so now we can just hold up the picture and say,
What is it? Jessica is determining what items Jack Riley knows the labels for. Items he does not know are separated to be taught to him during a later therapy session.
Vegetable.
Papa. Is that right?
Papa.
Oh, you gotta call your dad.
yo.
What is this?
Oh, he doesn't know that one.
What is it?
I didn't get to let him go on that
Oh my goodness.
That's good.
Woo!
That was good.
That was awesome.
Okay, last one, okay? And then you can play. What is it?
You're just making stuff up now.
Yay!
You did such a good job. That table came out perfect.
That was.
Find like a good table that looked like something
Papa,
you would
is this
know.
Papa?
So I was pretty surprised.
That-
That's Papa.
Oh, he said Papa
That's
too.
You did that on awesome.
He said you sent all. There's a couple pictures of him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got it.
Absolutely.
Papa's gonna be happy.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, of course, we're getting big heads thinking he's doing so well. He's getting such a big vocabulary.
I know we're not supposed to compare him to other kids, but because you guys work with other kids with autism, what are, and I know this isn't an easy answer, but easiest answer you can come up with.
Okay.
What are his strengths and weaknesses?
I would definitely say one of his biggest strengths is that he's able to learn, and he learns very quickly. You know, I mean, he's at a good place right now where he's sort of like shooting up everything, you know what I mean? And
He's excited.
yeah, and he's picking things up very quickly. You know, as far as what are his weaknesses, I think it's just the deficits that he has. It's just the delay in the language and the delay, you know what I mean? And it's all that stuff. But given that he is a fast learner, I think all that stuff is just coming out.
He's getting more words, but really they're, for the most part, like other than the table and things like that, they're more approximations. Or are we just recognizing the consistency more often now?
He's making a connection of words
Right.
to an item or a person or something.
Right.
We can always work on the
I see him, I see
articulation.
recognition in him, that's.
You want hickory dickory dock? Say no. No. Okay. So you can see which one you want. That goes. You want trains? Trains? Do you want trains? Trains? Say trains. Okay. Here. Let's go play with the trains. We got these. What color is this? Red. Very good. You know your colors. What color is this? Try again. Yellow. Very good. There he goes. There you go. That's what I was waiting for. Sit up and do it though. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it like this. Choo-choo. What's up? Do it this way though. You gotta sit up though and do it. Hey bud. You gotta sit up and do it. You can't lie down and play. You can play still. Do you want to play? Do you want to play? Then you need to play right. Okay? Sit down and play. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jack. You can play still. Uh-oh. That's okay. Here, you have one more. Let's go. Hey, you gotta sit up though. Sit up and then you can play. Okay.
We see Jessica repeatedly redirect Jack Riley to sit up each time he attempts to lay down and play. The reason she does this is that laying down while playing is inappropriate, and if we don't teach appropriate play skills, he won't be able to socialize with other children. This teaches him how to play, and that tantruming or negative behavior won't get him what he wants.
Sit down. You can go. Thanks for sitting. That was good sitting. Thank you. Oh, okay. Sit down though. Thanks. Hey, do this. Good job. Do this. Good job. Okay. Do you want Peekaboo Wild? Want Peekaboo Wild or Peekaboo Barn? Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Here, you pick. Which one? The Peekaboo Wild? Uh-oh. Let's see. That's not it. Here. Okay. Do this. Good job. Do this. Yay! Good job. All the way though. Stand up. Like this. Yeah. Okay, try again. Ready? Check right. Do this. Jack. Is that you? Yeah, that's you. Who's that? That's me. It's Jessica. Can you do this? Yeah, good job. Can you do this? You do. Yeah, there you go. There's your tongue. I was messing around with him the other day with my forward-facing camera just to see him make funny faces to each other, and he really imitated. So.
But with the camera, not with
With the camera, but not face to face. Yeah. Which is interesting. It's really interesting. Yeah. But like face to face, you can do like the gross motor NBI, where I do this and he claps, or I stand up and he'll do the same thing, but facial stuff, no, he won't. Shit, that's right.
There are so many times when I wish you could be here during the breaks, and this was one of those times, you guys. I am here. We're back.
Why don't
and
you
I'm
introduce
thrilled.
Sam and then we'll...
Yes, we have with us in the studio Sam Tripoli, a stand-up comedian who is going to be the headliner for this year's Fullerton Cares comedy show.
Yes. And he's funny. I can guarantee
you
in the last couple of minutes
and he
I
and
could.
Nancy, we want to put in some mud here and just let them go for it.
I'm in. I'm all in.
It got that close.
I ain't afraid to get weird. I'll get weird for a charity. Let's do it. Mud wrestling for a charity. Let's get in it.
I'm having trouble breathing.
Do I look like the guy from Revenge of the Nerds, don't I?
I was going to say you're a pretty sharp dresser.
Thank you. I'm trying to dress nice and impress the ladies.
I always forget how great plaid looks on camera. So you're rocking that.
I wasn't
plaid
sure
there.
because sometimes you don't want to wear white on camera. Like no white on. I think that was like a way back in the day before they fixed that.
Way back in the day. There's no rules.
There's
Stripes,
it's
everything.
Chaos.
No, white still isn't okay for us.
But it looks good though. I mean, it's popping.
But that's plaid, and plaid always looks good on camera.
Thank you.
So,
It is.
So
It
let's
isn't-
talk about the
But
event,
let's
and then
talk
we'll
about-
let Sam go
well,
wild.
and let's talk about Sam and what Sam does, because this. I was thinking of this as a departure for Fullerton Cares because you host something called The Naughty Show.
Yes, yes.
And we asked if you were going to be naughty, and you come from a particular bent with comedy that involves burlesque.
Burlesque, adults, talking adult stuff. It's like risque, like you said. It's risque comedy.
Yeah.
I've always thought, people, you work hard during the week, you grind 9 to 5, and you just want to go and release and have a little fun and get a little risque. We've done it at the world famous Comedy Store. It's one of the biggest shows in Hollywood. We have our own permanent residence in Las Vegas. We do it at Planet Hollywood once a month, and so now we're doing it in Fullerton, and Fullerton gets it, man. They get it. They had Super Naked last time. Now we got this one. I think just because it's a charity event doesn't mean it can't be a little risque, right?
Well, absolutely.
And I
Now,
find that
when is the event this year? And it's for the 6th consecutive year.
And it just gets bigger.
And it's on
October 19th. 19th, yes,
yeah,
October
Wednesday,
19th.
October 19th. And you
It's
also,
a Wednesday.
in addition to the risque Sam Tripoli,
Boom.
you've got the #1 burlesque group in LA, Les
Yeah.
Dolls.
Miss Dakota, she's traveled the world.
Whoa.
She's done it all over the world. And she has this amazing
Look
troupe.
at you in a tux, Sam.
Yeah, I bring heat. Look at that. Look at that man heat.
You are a
Hosted by-
dresser, Sam.
Thank you. I like to dress up. I look good in a suit. I
bet you do.
So I like, we have the best burlesque dancers. Then we have 3 of the hottest young comics in Los Angeles. The Naughty Show always brings the best comedians. And it's just going to be like an hour, 2 hours of just really fun, crazy comedy. And it's the best of everything.
And it's the best of everything because it goes to support Fullerton Cares, which tell us a little bit about that. Acceptance, awareness, and action are the pillars of Fullerton Cares. And where is that located?
In Fullerton. That's basically where it's located. I don't know.
North Orange County, to be exact. I thought,
Yeah. It's not code or it's not a riddle. It's in Fullerton, and basically these 2 guys, you can't see them off camera.
They're out.
Larry and Nick, who
Hi,
look
Larry and
like
Nick.
they're bounty hunters / tow truck drivers. Were nice enough to they put this event
Everybody
on
started
6 years.
scattering when they walked in the building.
Yeah. They're coming for your cars, everybody, and which is a funny charity. You ever hear Cars for Kids? They want your car. It's like, who doesn't need their car? Who's just gonna give them your car? Like, you want this plaid shirt, though, but you want my car. What am I gonna do? I need a car. But the point is that these guys I have been putting this together for 5 years, and last year was a huge success. It was a packed house, and they wanted to mix it up, you know. So it's like year 6, so you did 5 years of straight comedy, and that was great. Let's do a little. Let's bring in some burlesque dancers. Let's bring in a fun DJ, and let's like have a crazy crowd. We're gonna have giveaways in the show. We'll give away some fun stuff for everybody, and it's gonna be an hour or two of power. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I guarantee you won't forget about
come
it.
out. You can go to Fullerton
Are you
Cares.
coming out? Are you gonna come out and get
I'm gonna try
weird?
to come out.
I think it'd be fun if we both went.
FullertonCares.com.
It's a Wednesday,
You
so
can
that's,
go.
you know,
Yeah, I want everybody to.
We're people who go to bed at 7:30 on Wednesdays. But
what time
for
do you
this,
get up?
Well,
No, we don't
like
go to bed
5.
at 7:30. But you know, we've got the
I'm being
kids, you know, on the spectrum.
It's
I
a-
have a son
it's
with
a school
autism. I'm a
night.
single mom.
I respect that.
But-
I respect that.
But for this, you know, we'll
We would make an
effort.
exception.
We'll make an effort.
So, yeah, once again, we want to say.
Will you ladies dance in the show? Some burlesque?
Okay, well, I want to talk
Bring
about
some
burlesque.
heat? Can I
'cause
get some lady
I've
heat?
never been to a burlesque
You
show
haven't?
before, and so like, what for people who don't know, what can we expect? What is that going to be? How naughty are we talking?
Did you see the movie Burlesque?
No.
Have you been
Not
to
many
any
people
kind
did.
of, do you love theater?
Who did?
Do
I
you
do love theater. I do
Okay.
love the theater.
Well, imagine a show, instead of having acting, they just had all the dance. And
Okay.
all the dance sequences, and that's really what
And the dancers are in rather skimpy.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, kind of
Beautiful.
like Vegas.
what do you want them to
Vegas.
dress?
Have you ever seen
dance
Vegas
and-
Showgirls?
Yes.
Well,
Yes. So
Well,
burlesque. is
Showgirls
along-
was about strippers.
Oh, okay,
This one's
sorry.
about
I'm not
burlesque
saying the movie. I'm
dancers.
like, have you ever seen Vegas Showgirls?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's
But do they disrobe?
I mean, like, no, there's no nudity or anything
Right,
like
right,
that. It's
okay.
like it's fun. Everybody can go have a good time.
Yeah,
It's not gonna
okay.
destroy anyone's moral compasses. Everybody will have fun. There won't be any craziness or boycotting going on. This is for a good time and
A good cause.
And we should say this benefits autism and
Yeah.
it benefits Fullerton Cares,
Right.
but it's not an autism event in terms your comedy is not autism based.
No,
this is there might be some things having to do with that, but this is
there's always going to be a couple
You
speakers.
have a nephew with autism. you
Yeah, I
said.
have a nephew.
Yeah. And of course, you know Larry very well, who is
Yes.
was the founder, and Larry started this because he was inspired by his son.
Yes.
But this is an evening of fun and
Fun,
comedy.
yes.
This is not a
There
Yes.
are always
let's
going to be
contemplate.
charity
Right,
events
right,
where you're going to get all the information
Yeah.
of what's
This
going
is not
on.
an educational event.
There will be a little. There's always some education going on. I always bring the education. I go 411 on everybody. So, but there'll be some obviously talk about what's happening with the funds made here. Nobody wants to just give their money and hope and pray.
Right.
So Larry will probably have somebody there who will discuss where the funds will go and what difference we've made from year to year.
Yeah,
And-
almost $100,000 for local,
Yeah.
initiatives there. I mean, it really impressive.
It is impressive, and he's doing it out of the love of his heart, which is why charities are. If you're going to go to a comedy show, go to a charity event. Just know that
Yeah, might as
it's
well
going to a
put-
good event.
So I
Good
want to
time
know
for good cause.
I want to know, Sam, at what point in your life did you realize that this is what you wanted to do?
That's a great question. I always get asked, when did you know you wanted to be a stand-up comic? And the honest answer is, from the moment I realized I existed in the universe is the time I wanted to make people laugh. Even though I didn't even know what stand-up was, the name for it, I always wanted to do it.
Okay, but did you know you were funny like when you were like a toddler?
I got
people
funniest in 6th grade, and I got
Okay.
funniest. I was the only person to go to high school with the sole purpose to win class clown in his senior year. So from 7th to 12th grade, that's all I did was work on trying to
But
get class.
Sam, was that a coping mechanism to hide some inner pain?
I'm sure some insecurity. Hey, I don't want that big guy punching me in the face. Maybe if I make him laugh. And I mean, like when you're in high school, being funny isn't attractive to girls, but once you get to college, it totally
they
changes
love
the
funny.
game.
Chick
So I
magnet.
went from being really weird in high school to being very attractive to the ladies. So, but it was definitely a coping mechanism. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest, the biggest, the most handsome. So you have to stand out somehow. And yeah, that's how I did it. I loved it.
Who was the first stand-up that you saw that you went, oh, that's what that's called. That's what I want to do?
Well, I mean, I remember my dad playing old Eddie Murphy records and my mom freaking out on him. And I was like, I love this. What is this? And I, since then, always wanted to do it. See, I had to fight for attention in my house because my brother was the #1 high school bowler in New York State.
Wow, God.
He was
How do
the
you
best of
compete
the
with
best.
that?
He was an 8th grader who hung out with grown men because he could bowl with 300s with both hands.
But I'm gonna guess that he was not a chick magnet.
He actually had way more girl. Like I said,
Really?
in high school, being funny isn't attractive. It's just not.
Bowling is
not till you
actually,
get to college.
sexy.
Bowling?
Bowling is, dude, to be able to bowl with both hands. My brother was great at golf, and he was the #1 high school bowler. He was the white Bo Jackson, and I lived in his shadow, which was weird because I was 2 years older than him. So it's like I had to find a way to get some attention,
Right.
and that's kind of how it did. So. You know, I've been blessed. I'm a regular at the world famous Comedy Store, which is considered the mecca of comedy. Anybody who does stand up, their goal is to perform at the Comedy Store. I don't care where you're from, and I've been there for a long time. So a kid who was a C+ student in high school has, I've performed on every continent. I've done stand up everywhere, and it's like next month I go to China. I've been to Australia, Canada. It's so crazy. And thanks to like the internet and Netflix now, everybody knows everything. It's so crazy.
When do you get your own show?
We're working on it. I have a project at Comedy Central right now.
There we go.
Okay.
And so, but the real question is, what is your brother doing now that years ago he was the #1 bowler? What's he doing now?
He runs a bowling alley. But I love him. If he sees this, he gets so mad at me. But no, he's great. He likes to manage. He likes to go in. My brother's kind of like that TV show where they flip bars. He loves to go into bars. He's like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse now. Not so much with the fighting or the awesome hair. He just goes in, finds somewhere that's not doing well, turns around, flips it, and then he moves on to the next place. That's kind of what he does. He's really good. Me and him are the same person, but we just have different skill sets.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So for anybody who is watching this and loving this.
And wants bowling lessons, hit up my brother.
What a great charity event
100%.
to go to. Fullerton Cares. This is happening in Fullerton, which is in Southern California. And it's at the Fullerton Ballroom, which is on Commonwealth Avenue in Fullerton. It's Wednesday, October 19th.
7 to 10 p.m. You can go to.
But there's a pre-show reception at 5:30.
Oh, and could they meet you?
Yeah.
And they could talk about
little
bowling.
handshakes. We talk bowling.
And this particular show, it's kind of like you're bringing the naughty show.
We're bringing Vegas to this charity
All right.
event.
All right.
You can go to eventbrite.com, comedy show for autism.
But we can also, you can go to Fullerton Cares on Facebook and connect that way.
FullertonCares.com.
FullertonCares.com. Amazing organization that we've featured many times here before on the show because we love Fullerton Cares.
Yes, we do.
They've set a model for communities all over the country, all over the world.
It's one of the best
for
places
how to be supported.
to live if you have someone with autism.
Shout out
in your family.
Fullerton.
It's my retirement plan. I
Okay.
think. Gotta get there. at
Can I
some
go live
point
in
somehow.
Fullerton?
Yes, I mean
It's
they
just
have
such
so
a
many
great
amazing
place
things.
for families.
Not the
with-
least
It's
of
great.
which they Larry has a fabulous bar there.
Yeah.
Bar and grill.
Right.
Karaoke night is awesome there. You ever
we were
done
just
that?
talking about doing
Can
karaoke.
we bring Ed
Living
Asher?
on a prayer, and I hit it. I love it. I love
Okay,
it.
so I
Could you-
didn't
how
know.
about Sweet
So it's
Child of
Bourbon
Mine? We
Street.
could do that.
All of mine.
Okay, so we're not inviting him to go to.
Why? You didn't think I
Karaoke.
crushed that? I crushed that.
Okay.
There's a lot of dogs outside. They heard that pitch.
But the name of it's Bourbon Street Bar and Grill in Fullerton. We have to give a shout out to them. You
have
could
to
do
think of some
karaoke there. I did not
Yeah,
know that.
let's bring it.
All
Let's
right,
bring it karaoke.
We
We'll
got
have
to
to
bring
find some
Ed Mann.
duets. I could
For
do
sure.
with
Me
it.
and you?
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
So we encourage you guys, go. Nancy and I are going to try to be there that night for the
Maybe
comedy
dance,
show.
a little dance on stage.
Don't ask too much of me on a Wednesday.
We'll make it
evening,
rain.
so-
We'll make it rain.
This moneymaker will not be shaking on that night.
Come
But,
on.
I'll applaud while everyone else does. In any case, so thrilled. Should we talk about some of the past people that have been there? Do you know who the other comics are that are going to be there the night that you're going to be there?
Yes. There is Greg Santos. You see him in several national commercials. One of the
He was on the
funniest-
show last year, I think. Here
No,
with
that
us, no?
was another Latino lady.
George Perez?
That was George Perez. You know these Latinos.
Have I not met?
They
met
start
all
to
sound
blend.
alike. They sound
They
alike.
start in Fullerton.
I
They
thought
all
we
blend.
met
They're all
Greg.
like
Maybe I-
Raiders. That's all they yell.
Maybe I met Greg Santos.
Oh,
somewhere.
he's
I know
very
the name.
funny. Then there's a gentleman named Gareth Reynolds, who's on one of the most popular podcasts in the world. called The Dollop. He's had his own show on MTV, Comedy Central. He's one of literally the funniest dudes I know. I love him to death. And then there's a very funny young lady who's very risque. Her name is Jessica Michelle Singleton. Her album went to #1 on iTunes recently. She travels the world, and she's literally she's just one of the funniest comics out there, and she's one of the best female comics you'll ever see, but she's one of the best comics.
And don't leave out DJ Crash.
And DJ Crash, who he DJs all the Playboy Mansion parties, and it's he's great too. So
bringing the funny,
bringing the funny, bringing the sexy, bringing Vegas to Fullerton.
All right. Vegas to Fullerton. We're there.
Okay.
All right, you guys, get your tickets. Support Fullerton Cares. Thank you so much for being with us.
We're gonna calm down in the next
Yeah, we have in the news to cover still. Thank you guys for tuning in for this. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with some news that's breaking. Oh, we're going to show the Fullerton Cares video right now as we go to break. So take a look. This is wonderful. Fullerton Cares.
Hey everybody, this is Joe Marisi. We're here live in Fullerton, California at the historic Fox Theater. And we're here tonight for the 4th annual comedy show for autism put on by the Fullerton Cares Foundation. And we're just hanging out outside the theater here, and we're going to go talk to some folks right now and see what brought them out tonight.
Please. My name is Larry Hauser. I'm the founder of the Fullerton Cares Autism Foundation, and the one putting on the whole event. That's me and my crew.
Larry, doing this for 4 years, what is it that you like best about this event?
What I like best about this event is there's a lot of people in this area that don't normally go to walks or any stuffy fundraiser events. This is something that those people don't come to, but they want to support. So that's why I really love this particular event, is because of that.
A lot of fun. Now, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with here?
I am the Fullerton School District Board President, and I'm taking a lot of the money from tonight. This is a wonderful event, and we can't wait to have the comedy and raise the money for a worthy cause.
Events, try to help raise money for the events, and seems like I said, Larry seems to do all the work and get the crew going, and he just directs us around, and we try to pick up the cash for him.
Awesome, Brian. And Brian, what is it in your 4 years coming to the event? What is it that you like the most about it?
The comedians. I mean, last year we had a full lineup. This year I think the lineup's going to be even better, and I mean, you can't beat it.
The event is the way that our community comes together, that everybody supports Fullerton Cares and supports the families that are part of Fullerton and that show up and create a really great environment for our kids to grow up in.
I'm actually out here to support my good friend Larry Hauser. Happy to be back and happy to support my buddy.
What I like the best is the amount of people that actually come out and support us and support the cause, because they know it's a good cause, it's a local cause, local charity, and so it's just nice to see the community come together for something that's for the community.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Back.
Hi, we were just talking about, I was looking at Wyatt in that video, my son Wyatt painting, you know, at the age of like 3, and he started painting when he was like 9 months old, and we were just saying, is it the chicken or the egg? I said, did he love art and then still loves it, or because I exposed it to him and kept putting him into it, did he learn to love it?
But did you keep putting him into it because he loved it? I mean, to see
yeah.
that little baby in the big shirt with his sleeves rolled up, and he's so clearly on a mission that he's moving from this area of to paint over here.
Right.
I mean, to see that drive in a baby, I think that came from him.
Innate, yeah, probably.
But both you and your husband and I know at least Reed's mother was an artist.
Yeah.
So you came from that sensibility.
Right.
And I think that how we perceive the world tends to be how we show our children.
Yeah.
But he clearly
I always wish he was better
at
at electronics, but that's because I'm so bad at electronics,
right?
Let's face it. And kids that tend to have dads that are really love gaming and computers, kind of like you.
Yes.
Your family, because Jim's really proficient at that stuff.
Yes. But I will say too, I mean, my dad was an electrician who worked in the television field, but he was an electrician. I mean, that was the thing that he was good at. So don't ask me to hook anything up electronically.
Oh, I thought you were a tech geek.
Can I call you a name? Right here and right now. Yes, I said that once. I said, oh, I'm a tech geek because I am attracted to tech things. I don't understand how they work. And so Nancy loves to say to me, oh, yes, Shannon's a tech geek because I can't plug anything in. I need help with everything. And
I'm worse. I got a new Mac book how long ago now, and it's under my desk. Amy keeps going, when are we going to actually transfer you from the 2005 MacBook to 2016.
Well, but in all fairness, I mean, it's a lovely piece of paper. That MacBook that you have. I mean, it is gorgeous.
It's that rose colored,
and it is as thin as.
And
this
I look at it every
paper.
day.
And it's beautiful. I want to plant flowers on it or in it, but it has no place to plug anything except to power a thing in. So if you wanted to add anything to that computer at all, like you can't plug a thumb drive in, you can't plug the internet in.
Really? You can't plug thumb drive in?
No, that was the whole reason why we were like, what it's a
all
lovely urn.
Yeah. Well, next week I have an appointment with with Amy, who works with me at Act Today, to, it's called Tech Day, to actually start using that new computer.
love
We'll
that.
see if I cancel that day.
I love
Okay,
that.
so
Okay.
we have in the news, and first
Yes.
is let's talk, well, they're both kind of serious stories.
Yeah.
One is about a Houston Chronicle investigation, which I have to say, good journalism. Go Houston Chronicle. The article was called "How Texas Keeps Tens of Thousands of Children Out of Special Education."
Yeah, and you know, the big headline here is denied. That what they have uncovered is that there has been a long-standing drive in the public schools in Texas to keep their special ed rate at
Low.
what is it,
8.5%, whereas the
of their-
national, I'll have to find the national
well, it is.
rate.
And they wanted to keep it below 8.5.
Right.
So that all their kids that are in public education, they wanted it to be 8.5 or
Here's a
below
comparison.
in special education.
By comparison, about 19% of kids in New York City get special education services.
There you go. So statistically, it's much higher everywhere. You know, it's like, what's driving the bus here? The number of kids who actually need special education services, or an arbitrary number that says this is how much? And of course, we know what drives that. It's the budget. You only have enough money anywhere to give, I would argue, 8.5%, but that doesn't mean that that's how many kids need it.
They're on the record in the article. We were basically told in a staff meeting that we needed to lower the number of kids in special ed at all cost, said Jamie Womack-Williams, who taught at the Tyler Independent School District until 2010. It was all a numbers game. So that's directly from a teacher's mouth. An advocate in special education has said it's extremely disturbing and describes the policy as a cap on special education meant to save money.
Exactly. And you and I had talked about this earlier during a break about, you know, so what's the fallout of that?
Right.
What happens
What
to
happened
all of
to
the
all
kids
those kids
that needed the special ed services that had them denied? And some of them got moved from an IEP to a 504. Which means that there are considerations, but they are not legally binding for the school to provide
and probably
services.
not nearly comprehensive
Not
enough.
nearly as comprehensive. Some of the kids just got nothing and were left in the classroom with no supports when they clearly needed them. Others, their families said that's not going to work, and if they had the means, took them out and took them to private schools. But you see, we set up a standard in which we're not what is allowed by the law is a free, appropriate public education, which gives our children, in an environment that's the least restrictive environment, a floor of opportunity in which to access the curriculum. And what these folks did by saying, well, after 8.5 we're done, is they denied them for their right for free, appropriate public education.
Right. And in this article in the Houston Chronicle, there are many examples of individual families that were affected by this, and in some cases, one family started their own school, but just the fallout from it. And how these children and families were affected because they were denied what was their right under the law. It's
and I would argue that for families that have been in the Texas school system, that have been met with at IEP meetings, you know, your child being downgraded to a 5, if your child needs an IEP and you're not getting in that and getting the 504, I'm referring to that as being downgraded. They're separate things. But if you feel that your child was denied without good reason, you certainly have the right to consider getting an attorney and seeking damages as a result.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of fallout from this article. Who knows? Maybe a class action suit. There might be. You should stay on top of it if you're in Texas and check it out. You can go to HoustonChronicle.com. Denied.
Absolutely. Now, in other news, Dr. Bob Sears, who's been on the show before, he's the doctor who wrote the vaccine book. He practices here in Southern California. He is facing medical board discipline for his interaction in a specific case in which he wrote a medical exemption for a child, excusing her from vaccines based on a report from the mother.
About the child's adverse reaction as an infant.
Yes, and the mother even reported that the child's bowels and bladders shut down for 24 hours, and after the 3-month shot, she said he was limp for a day and didn't act like himself for a week. And based on that, according to this in the OC register, Dr. Sears allowed a medical exemption. And my understanding is that what the board is, where he's facing discipline, is not keeping records on, and that the records weren't comprehensive enough because it was just from the mother's point of view.
They said the documents say Sears failed to obtain a detailed medical history documenting the unidentified boy's prior vaccines and reactions, which was necessary for making an evidence-based decision. Sears' recommendation left the patient and his future contacts at risk for preventable and communicable diseases. So, I guess they did not see that when he had shots at 2 months old and his bowels and bladder shutting down as a, maybe he didn't write up. I can't imagine that this was not.
I think the crux here is that because he took the mother's point of view and what their expectation would be, that he would have reached out to and gotten a doctor to corroborate the mother's point of view that her child had a reaction. And, in my personal opinion is that this is a witch hunt, that Dr. Sears is somebody who has spoken out frequently and said that he does not think that the vaccines are one size fits all. I'm putting words into his mouth, but I know that he has spoken out as being against SB 277, the law that makes it mandatory for all children.
Right.
In
2015 opinion piece, in the Orange County Register, he wrote, "Vaccination is important and protective, but it cannot be forced. A patient must give consent." So that's out of his mouth.
And here's what I want to say about this for anybody who is on the fence about this, or like, oh well, it should be mandatory. I just want everybody to keep in mind, we've talked about this several times, that there's so little in this world that is truly one size fits all. And we know for a fact that vaccines are not appropriate for all children at all times. All you have to do is turn on the news at some point and they'll cover a case with a parent who will stand there and say into the camera, please vaccinate your child. I wish I could vaccinate my child, but I can't because my child has leukemia and they're going through chemotherapy, and so their doctor won't allow them to be vaccinated. So please vaccinate your child because I can't vaccinate mine. And I certainly appreciate hearing from that parent and their point of view, but what we also need to remember from that is that there is the truth there, that there are some children that it is not appropriate medically for them to, there are children who have adverse allergic reactions. And so, at what point do we make it impossible for a parent who has seen an adverse reaction to be able to go to a doctor? I think there's an atmosphere of fear that doctors are being taught that they really shouldn't give medical exemptions. It makes it very hard for parents who have children with immune issues.
If they speak out, it appears they'll be punished. That's
certainly the message. It's a witch hunt, and I don't think it's.
I concur with that. He is the author of the vaccine book, which includes a staggered alternative shot schedule to what the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommend. However, part of that staggered schedule includes spacing out the MMR. The only reason, and unless somebody wants to correct me, like Merck, the only reason for the MMR, maybe the manufacturer, is because it is economical to put them into one dosage.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of that, but here I want to, there's the CDC says that mild reactions to vaccines may include fever, fussiness, and soreness at the injection site. And what this mom was saying was that it was beyond that.
Right.
And what the medical board is saying is that a doctor should not take a mother's opinion about what happened with her child. In all likelihood, let's walk through this for a second. In all likelihood, she got the shot at the doctor, she went home, and her child experienced more than fever, fussiness, soreness at the injection site. She probably called the doctor's office and they said, give the child something, but unless she brought that child back to an emergency room or to the doctor, they would not know what the reaction was.
No.
And I take exception to
and it might not
the
be
fact,
on the medical records. Why?
Exactly.
105 fever was not on the medical records. It was in my diary when he had MMR.
And I don't understand why, as a parent of a child who's on the autism spectrum, or as a parent or as a person walking on this planet, if I go to my doctor and I say, this is what happened, the doctor takes that down and takes that into consideration. But now suddenly the medical board is saying that doctors can't take that into consideration when it has to do with vaccines. I would like to know why. Who's writing that check?
Right.
Who's behind that?
Right.
Why?
How does it have to
why
be
are we
documented other than
suddenly-
the mother's word who was there firsthand?
Why are we automatically assumed to be overreactive liars? Why? Why?
I don't know.
Who's benefiting from that? That's my only question.
I'm with you.
About that. And there is a meme going around saying, I stand with Dr. Bob Sears. Let me be, a person to say, I stand with Dr. Bob Sears.
As do I.
And there is that on that. So I got on a soapbox. How about you? Are you feeling soapboxy?
I'm right with you. I second that motion.
There we go. That emotion. In any case, we are out of time. What a great show that we had today. Thank you so much for
fun.
being
I'm
here. It was
laughing.
fast paced. We moved.
I know. I'm like,
we
my
laughed, we
cheeks are
cried.
sore.
It was better
Between
than cats.
Ed and Nava and Sam.
It was Matt and Nava. I know you're in love with Ed, but it was Matt and Nava. Ed wasn't here.
I know, my boyfriend.
She's a little Twitter-pated, but it's all good. All for a good reason. He makes you Twitter-pated.
He does. I know. He's 83. I like older
He
men.
still has it. Let's be honest about that. And Sam was hilarious. We thoroughly enjoyed him.
Hilarious.
So in any case, we're out of time. Can I just tell you guys really quickly about what we have for tomorrow's
Please
show?
do.
First
Please
up
do.
tomorrow, we have Broadway director Glenn Cassell, who's here talking about The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is the show that I went to the other night, and I've
were
been
so
talking endlessly. I
transformed.
wrote a blog about it.
Right.
Honestly, you guys, if you're in the Southern California area, you got to get to see the show, but watch tomorrow because the lead actor in the show is deaf. He's a deaf actor, and what happens on that stage is inclusion. I'm telling you, it's life-changing.
You called me and you were
I
the moon.
was over the moon about it. So Glenn is here with us, and we got a whole Broadway theme tomorrow because then later on in the show, we have Kobe Bird. He's a 15-year-old student who is on the autism spectrum who performs in Miracle Project. This summer, he took part in a camp called Broadway Dreams. It's all kids who, neurotypical kids who get together with Broadway stars, and they have an intensive camp where they get training from those Broadway stars. Kobe was one of the first students on the autism spectrum to participate. And at the end of every year, they pick 1 or 2 students from all the locations, and they get invited to come to New York to do a showcase for producers and agents and directors, and Kobe got chosen. So he's going to New York in just a little over a month. He's got a fundraiser for it. He's going to be here tomorrow talking about his Broadway dream. I get chills, you guys. It's so exciting for me. So Broadway show tomorrow. It's going to be
great.
really, really fun. Make sure you tune in for it. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.